And the Oscar goes to.
I recall an episode of Siskel and Ebert where they reviewed David Cronenberg's 1991 film Naked Lunch. While giving a mixed review, Siskel liked the movie. Ebert, on the other hand, had this to say. In a long time of reviewing movies, I've rarely seen a movie that leaves me more at a loss for words. I admire what Cronenberg and Peter Weller, the lead actor, and Judy Davis, the lead actress, have done here. It's a very good job. It is a brilliant job. It is one of the most unpleasant movies I've ever seen, and I hated most of it. I wouldn't go so far as to say I hate today's film. Like Ebert with Naked Lunch, I respect the skill and artistry that director Alfred Hitchcock employs to create mood and tell the story, and the actors certainly don't do a bad job either. As with Ebert, that respect didn't stretch to me loving the film, though. Rebecca is a 1940 adaptation of the 1938 Daphne du Maurier book of the same name. It was Hitchcock's first film made in Hollywood and his only movie to ever win Best Picture. The romantic thriller follows an unnamed young woman, played by Joan Fontaine, as she meets and falls in love with the well-off Max de Winter, played by famed Shakespearean actor Laurence Olivier. The couple experiences brief happiness at the beginning of their relationship. Sadness, uncomfortableness, and distance soon set in, however, when they move to Maxim's grand family mansion, Mandalay. Memories of Maxim's late first wife, Rebecca, are brought up time and time again, haunting both protagonists in different ways. There's also the Durer housekeeper, Mrs. Danvers, played by Judith Anderson, who doesn't much like the new Mrs. De Winter. As a fun aside, she was also the inspiration for the young Frankenstein character Frau Blucher. All is not as it seems, though, and there's more to Rebecca's drowning than meets the eye. If there's one thing Hitchcock is good at, it's creating mood. He infuses it into every aspect of his movies: the scripts, actors, cinematography, sets, and of course the music. Like many great movie houses, Mandalay is a character in the film. It's haunting, full of memories better left forgotten. The house also has a sterile atmosphere, or at least it did to me. Nothing should be moved or changed from the way Rebecca would have wanted it. Nothing is better than Rebecca's way. No one can replace the perfect Rebecca in the eyes of most of the characters. The new Mrs. De Winter certainly feels this inadequacy, this inability to measure up to such a loved woman. Fontaine gives her performance the right amount of insecurity and lack of confidence that we can believe Rebecca's legacy would cause the new Mrs. De Winter severe stress and anxiety as the film progresses. Olivier appropriately plays Maxim as charming and likable, but also distant and emotionally distressed. He's clearly fond of his new wife, but something is preventing him from getting close to her once they move to Mandalay. Although we can be nearly certain from her first appearance that there is something slightly off with Mrs. Danvers, Anderson slowly peels away what sane layers of her character there are until her insanity is as high as the tension. At her worst, she's manipulating Mrs. De Winter and trying to get her to commit suicide. At her best, she's not much better.
Why don't you go? Why don't you leave Mandalay? He doesn't need you. He's got his memories. He doesn't love you. He wants to be alone again with her.
You've nothing to stay for. You've nothing to live for, really, have you? Look down there. It's easy, isn't it? Why don't you? Why don't you? Go on. Go on. Don't be afraid.
Along with an evocative score, a well laid out mystery, and some nice comic moments, all these elements add up to a fine job by Hitchcock & Co. I, however, just can't get myself to love it or even like it all that much. I cared about the characters and wanted to see things turn out well for them, but I never got really into the film. I never thought to myself, man, this is a great movie. But I also never found myself saying the opposite either. There are parts of it I enjoyed. There's plenty I didn't like too. The on-screen couple does a good job individually, but not so much as a pair. I never believed they were truly in love until near the end, and even then I wasn't fully convinced. Since they are supposed to be emotionally distant for most of the film, some might say that was the point. Even understanding that, I still wasn't as satisfied with the relationship as I think the movie wanted me to be. The constant comparing of the new Mrs. De Winter and Rebecca also got a bit repetitive at times. As a whole, Rebecca never quite got going for me. It never hit me hard emotionally, and so is more likely to be a movie I forget rather than remember. This leaves me in the position of whether to recommend this or not. I watch all the films in this series with my fiancée. She read the book many years ago, was eagerly awaiting the film, and enjoyed it immensely. It was exactly what she was hoping for, and it now sits among her top 5 picks of the best pictures so far. So you very well might like it. I have to take a page from Ebert's book and say I respect what everyone did, but it isn't a movie I'll be rewatching anytime soon.